Okay, I'm going to move on to the web application, and I'm going to roll the dice and try to do a live demo for you. If it doesn't work, we'll just go back to our slides. So we have a Shiny app that you can use to get all the information you need for your flow duration. We have a bit of background material here that is an excerpt from the user manual. And to get started using it, you click on Enter Data. The first thing you need to do is enter your coordinates. And this gets the whole process started. I've got a test example I'm going to show you from Wyoming. You click this button. So make sure that your longitude, you have a negative number. This has to be in decimal degrees east. And you say assess snow influence. And it's running. This reach is snow influence. You get all the climatic metrics. Snow persistence is 53.5. May precip is 54. October precip is 43.4. And the air temperature is 12.1. Now, if you put in coordinates that were in the arid wests in an adjacent portion outside the Western Mountains, it would give you a flag. It'll say this isn't within the arid west, but you'd still get all these climatic metrics, and you could still go ahead and run the model. So it doesn't block you from doing that. The only time you're blocked is if you pick a coordinate that is outside the region where we have all the necessary climatic data. So if you put, a positive number here, you're choosing a coordinate somewhere in China, and you'd say, this is too far outside our region, you can't use it. But you can use it outside the Western Mountains if you like to. And when that happens, your results, you still get them, but they're flagged. So we're telling you this is a snow influence site, but you have the choice of whether you want to run the recommended model or the non-recommended model. That's up to you. I would always go with the recommended one. So here you can enter all your field measurements. So for this site, we have, 47 aquatic invertebrates. This is actual real data we have. 13 mayflies. We had one indicator taxon in one family. There was a lot of fish observed, a lot of algae observed. You can check if algae observed are a deposit. If you do that, it'll kind of ignore this but retain the information. Same with the mosquito fish. The differences in vegetation were pretty strong. Channel was wide, and sinuosity was weak. So now once you've entered all your data, you click Run Model. And he says the reach is classified as perennial based on these indicators. That's great. So if all you wanted was your answer, you've got it. You're done. You don't have to do anything else. But if you want to, you can use the same Shiny app to create a report in a standard format, similar to what we did with the Arid West. So you've already entered all of your indicator information. You can use these fields to enter any additional information that you think is necessary, like training project test site. You can enter all the information you want. You can leave these blank if you want. Describe the land use. But what's really nice, site had surface flow, but you can enter, you can upload photos. Now, you can browse to the photo you want and say, I'm looking for the top of the reach looking down, add them here. I'm not going to go through each one. It kind of sends you to the top of the page, which is a little inconvenient. We're trying to fix that, but until then, you have to just keep scrolling. You can provide photos of specific indicators. So if you have invertebrate photos, we have here a caddis case, and you can add a descriptive caption of it. So empty caddis case found on cobble near the stream. You can record information about, you can upload your photos of, like, here's my photo of sagebrush growing above the channel and willows growing in the channel. And I'll just add one more photo because it takes a while to go through this. You know, we have an aquatic snake observed at this site. You scroll to the end and you can say that photo I uploaded. Where is it? Garter snake. And when you're done, you hit generate report. And you end up with a PDF that's got your classification. It tells you which model you applied and to which site. You'd also get a flag here if you tried to apply this outside the Western Mountains. And you get all your photos in there. We didn't upload all of them, so you just see the ones that we did upload. There's your caddis case. There's your garter snake. So you can create these standardized reports and include them anywhere you need to document your assessment. When you use this, no information is submitted to the EPA or any other agency. It's all staying on your local desktop computer. So, you know, all your data is still confidential. And yeah, that's probably the best way to document your assessments. Any questions about using this app? I just want to point out some stuff I had in the slides I didn't mention. Again, we can only get these 4 possible classifications: ephemeral, intermittent, perennial, at least intermittent. 5th classification, need more information is possible in the arid west, but not with this method. If you do get at least intermittent, that means that the indicators you're observing are inconsistent with ephemeral, and you can't really distinguish between perennial or intermittent or with high confidence. There's a lot of decisions where that's all the information you need. It could also be a case that your indicators say the stream is ephemeral, but a single indicator was present. This wasn't all that uncommon of a classification in our development data. It typically happens when you have relatively weak expression of some indicators. So like you have low abundance of aquatic invertebrates, low distinctness of vegetation. And sometimes a second visit can really help resolve between perennial and intermittent, like if you go at the peak of the dry season. Yeah, here we're walking through some examples. If you want to play around with the Shiny app, these coordinates will sort of give you an example of what the different outputs look like. You can try something like outside the Western Mountains, but snow influenced or not snow influenced. We can't assess this site in Canada because it's outside where we have climate data. All right. Here's an example of what your site might look like. So sometimes you might desire additional information, like you conducted the assessment under suboptimal conditions, like affected by wildfire. You have a handful of options to get you some more information from this assessment. And we should say when more information is desired, not needed. Need more information is not an outcome of this tool. So first, you should evaluate your supplemental information and see if it's consistent with, you know, higher, longer, or shorter duration flows. You can go back and reevaluate that site or nearby sites. You can look at historical imagery, and you can also just try to conduct revisits to during appropriate wet and dry seasons. The supplemental information that we have in the protocol is the aquatic life stages of amphibians and reptiles, presence of iron oxidizing fungi and bacteria. In general, if you see them, you have indications of longer duration flows. If you want to conduct an additional evaluation at the same site, this is great if your assessment was influenced by a storm or some sort of transient disturbance and you just come back after the disturbance has dissipated. It might be easier to identify plants if you come back in a different season, for example. I should say also, you know, aquatic invertebrates, they can be easier to identify when they're more mature. So if you go very early in the winter, it can be harder to identify some of them. when you want to pick like an alternative site for your assessment, you want to make sure that that alternative is consistent and comparable to the original site. So in these two examples, this one on the left, if your original site was in this confined valley, it's okay to move up if you're still within that valley. You don't want to move out into the alluvial plain. You don't want to move out onto a tributary, particularly if it has such just a distinctively different appearance. Again, historical imagery can be very useful. Here's an example of a perennial reach in Wyoming where you can see flow under different conditions. And this is all images from Google Earth. That resource that Jamie mentioned is probably going to be helpful here as well. Here's an intermittent reach. You can see you have dry conditions evident in a few images, but water's pretty clear in the first image there. And then an ephemeral reach where every photo available had no evidence of flow. More information can be gained by conducting revisits at appropriate times. Like I said, if you go at the peak of the dry season, that can help you distinguish between perennial or long duration intermittent reaches. If you're going to a dry channel at the peak of the wet season, that's probably ephemeral. And the timing will vary depending on your region. For example, if you're in, the north coast of California has a Mediterranean climate, so wet winters and dry summers. If you see flow in the late summer or fall, that usually rules out an ephemeral status. Arizona, New Mexico, the wetter seasons are typically in the summer, so your timing should reflect the local conditions. And if you want additional information on ASTAMS, the primary resource is your regional coordinator. But for any other information, you can always go to the EPA's Streamflow Duration Assessment Hub and contact the team to learn about new methods as they get developed for other regions, as well as these beta methods get replaced with final versions. And with that concludes our training. So I would like to open it up to questions and discussions from any of you.